Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Maxim Fateev with us today. Maxim is a co-founder and CTO at Temporal.io. He's an ex-Uber, an ex-Google, ex-AWS and Microsoft. So sort of dip them all. I think from Rio de Janeiro or Brazil at least. Also see Moscow State University there. So quite diverse background. Max, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I've been around for a while, and yes, I am from Russia, but my computer science degree is from Brazil. So I finished my master in the State University of Rio de Janeiro, and then moved to the US in '98 in the middle of dot-com bubble. And I worked for a bunch of large companies, but I think I'm mostly Amazonian, so I spent 8.5 years at Amazon from 2002, and learned a lot of things there. And then we built our current company is based on the open source project, which was built at Uber. We started that over 9 years ago.
Right. And why switch from corporate to your own company?
We actually never thought about that explicitly. Me and my co-founder never discussed starting a company, but we just were working on open source project, and the project became relatively successful. So we ended up on Hacker News and started to get inbound VC contacts and requests. And we talked and we kind of thought about it and decided that this idea is worth building a company, because I think the idea we had and project we had has huge potential, and still has huge potential, I think, for growth.
Right. And what's a company about? Said you're revolutionizing backend with Temporal. So yeah, what's the idea behind that?
So the main idea is we call it durable execution. It's a new concept. I kind of invented that while at Amazon. And the main idea is that we practically persist all the time and durably the whole code execution state. So if you have write some function and function calls some APIs, let's say these days you would call model and then you call a tool, and let's say tool takes long time and process which hosts your code crashes. Machine goes down, something bad happens. And then tool reply comes back, we will actually resurrect your process in exactly the same state on a different machine potentially. So it will still be blocked on a tool call, still will be waiting. And then when reply comes back, we will kind of continue to the next line of code as nothing happened. So as engineer, you write code as failures, crashes don't exist. So think about your code being crashless. And it has all sorts of interesting implications how you design and implement your system.
Interesting. And how many clients do you have right now?
We have over 2,000. I don't remember exactly. I didn't check recently, but I think around 2,500 customers. And it's an open source project, so it has many more people using that at large scale production.
That's a lot of people, and you even have the timeline of the company. So you launched around, I mean, it was founded around 2020, right? And you only recently launched?
Yeah, so because so we had an open source project called Cadence at Uber. And when we started the company in 2019, in the fall of 2019, we had to go fork route. So we forked the project, and we spent 1 year building kind of our own fork. We put a lot of improvements there. So, and then it took us another year, a couple of years to actually create a cloud service, which is like our SaaS offering. And then we launched it it's over 2 years ago right now, right? But it grew pretty fast and keeps. I think the speed of growth is actually increasing right now.
Right. And basically, how does a company raises 75 million without even having one paying customer?
Just because we had investors, we believed in our idea, and they believed in. And also, I think the main reason how it actually happened is that our investors just talk to our users. For example, Bogomil, who is our partner at Sequoia, he just pinged everyone on our Slack channel, partly asking them, can you talk to me? And people were contacting me asking, who's that guy? Should I talk to him? And we're like, oh, you probably want to talk to him, please. And they just give him feedback. Okay, you like the product, we are willing to pay for it, and we'll use more of it. And I don't think they are regretting that decision.
Right. And how did the evaluation skyrocket so fast as well? And if it was like 1.5 in mid 2022, like what is it nowadays?
So we just closed the round, and I think if we kind of, I think it's around 1.7 post, and obviously the previous round was in 2021, so it was kind of on the peak of the the funding bubble, but we were able to kind of maintain this valuation, and we kind of grew into that valuation, let's say now, and we are exceeding that already.
Right. And what is Samar's background? Like, why do you complement each other so well?
So it's interesting. Our actually background was we are both engineers, so we never managed a single person before starting the company, and but at the same time we have just different kind of types of skills and approaches. For example, I was CEO of the company until last year, and gradually I can recognize that I don't want to do that job. That I would rather be kind of focusing on the technical part. And Samar was CTO, but then he kind of actually his management skills and people skills are much better than mine. He enjoys it much more. So we kind of ended up swapping places. But while he was running the whole engineering as CTO, now I have 0 reports. So I'm kind of CTO, which focuses 100% on technology, and he's actually driving the company as a CEO.
Right. And who got in touch with all these big names? Tiger, Sequoia, MongoDB. Like, who's that well connected in the team?
It's all mostly was initially it was all inbound, and then our existing investors helped us to get connected to other firms. And this time it's just we get a lot mostly inbound. Tiger, for example, was following us for years, and they did very, very deep research on our company before actually starting talking about leading the round.
Right. And you and Samar built together SQS, right? Tell me a bit more about that and your Amazonian background.
Yeah, so at Amazon, I was in platform team well before AWS existed, and before AWS even was conceived as an idea. And Amazon needed PubSub system. An original version of that was running on Oracle, and it wasn't scalable. Not because Oracle is not scalable, just that the architecture wasn't really well done. Okay, it was like done in 90s. And then we built, I was tech lead for designing distributed storage engine, a kind of broker-based architecture for PubSub, and that Amazon practically ended up running on that. It was Amazon messaging platform. And then SQS was launched as a service. Their first version had pretty unscalable backend, and they needed a new engine. And they took our engine, and I think they've been running on that for a long time. I don't know where they are right now. I didn't check recently, but it's certainly been used for a very long time as a backend engine for SQS. And Samar, we met actually not doing SQS. We met doing simple workflow service. Simple workflow service was kind of our attempt to fix event-driven architectures, because as tech leads for PubSub at Amazon, we realized that PubSub and event-driven architectures just weren't the right abstraction for building large-scale systems.
Tell me about the open source system of it, because I have your plans here. Charge starts $100 a month, $500 a month. Why open source? Why do you believe this is the future?
So, okay, open source is open source. It's free, right? It's MIT license. There is nothing which restricts you from using that in production. And we actually have fully featured open source. It's not a restricted version. So there are a lot of very large companies running that in production at very large scale. Like Datadog still self-hosts, like they run open source. I think Salesforce run a lot of open source clusters. And at the same time, our solution actually has 2 parts. One is libraries, which you link it to your application, and it's part of your application, and you run your code yourself. And there is backend cluster, kind of more like database, right, which keeps the state. So our cloud only runs that backend cluster for you. So, and you practically can write this code and just switch connection string from self-hosted open source cluster to a cloud cluster, and we just provide a much better experience around managing the cluster that people are willing to pay for it. And reality is because our solution almost always ends up in the critical path of almost any company, and people are willing to pay for kind of guarantees which we can provide in terms of operating that at very high availability and scale.
Right. And what's the alternative if I want to build a crash-proof app? Like, aren't AI systems pretty good at that nowadays? Like, let's say if I vibe code with cursor, did my shit still gonna crash? Like, is there an alternative to that?
No, I think to think about it, the alternative is kind of do it yourself. Is you practically will probably use database, you will kind of pull database, you will use cron jobs, you will kind of stitch things together, right? You will use queues. So every time you kind of reinvent this, like there are a bunch of patterns, but you're kind of just assembling this from scratch every time. And these wipe code tools actually awful doing that because they can do simple things. For example, they're actually very good generating temporal code because temporal code eliminates all the edge cases. You just code your business logic directly. And a lot of people actually wipe code temporal code directly because it's actually much simpler. And it's much simpler code, so LLMs are actually pretty good doing that. But yeah, I think even humans have hard time designing fault-tolerant scalable applications.
Right. And what are your thoughts on vibe coding nowadays and AI just completing the code for you? Would you see you integrating with one of these AI vibe coding platforms one day and just permitting anyone to code anything instantly without the crashes?
Oh, actually, people use us all the time. By the way, OpenAI just released this tool, how they call it, like the Codex, right? Yeah, Codex agent. It's built using Temporal internally, right? So because they want a Codex agent to be resilient and scalable, they use it. So that is one example, but there are other platforms doing similar things. So we already been used for quite a few agentic scenarios in those companies.
Tell me about your plan. I think you give out like 1,000 credits or something like that for 90 days. Isn't that a long period, like for free trials? Isn't that overly generous, or do you see massive conversions on that plan?
We see massive conversions. Our conversion rates are very. I don't remember from the top of my head, but I know that they are much higher than average on industry. I think the main reason is that people usually who go to our cloud already have experience with open source. We have very good experience, local experience. You can practically download single binary version of our solution. You can practically do brew install temporal, and then you say temporal start dev, and you get the server running this UI and everything. And you can do local development 100%. And then if you want to switch to the cloud, you just sign up for the cloud and you can start using it for production with this very practically without hassle. That's why our conversion rates are pretty good usually.
As a technical guide, what technical leaders have you studied over the last couple of years? I mean, you've been at Amazon, so that's Bezos. You've been at Uber in the Travis Kalanick days, I believe. Like, what leader do you study and model nowadays?
I don't think there is a specific leader. We kind of go after. Also, I'm a technical guy. I'm just mostly focusing on technology right now, and I certainly. It's not like I follow personas. I follow designs, right? Like I read, obviously, a very long time ago, I read every Google paper, right? Like about distributed systems. I read a lot of articles, and I just read blogs and so on. So for me, it's just trying to understand the ecosystem, trying to understand what's out there. And also I talk a lot to our customers and users.
Right. And how do you make sure to gather proper feedback from your customers? How do you make sure to do it scientifically? Because some feedback is good, some feedback is not so good. Human feedback is qualitative. You also have numbers on your platform. So how do you make sure to make sense out of all of that data to decide to modify it or add new features on the roadmap?
I don't think we have a very scientific way right now because we are a developer platform, right? It's very hard to quantify things when you're doing things for developers, especially writing practically frameworks, right? We are kind of framework and platform which you are using. I'm still doing customer support, right? I'm still doing user support in our Slack channel. So I interact with users every day. I understand what's going on. The same thing, I talk to customers. Now we record like a conversation to customers have gone, right? So we can actually do statistics, and our product organization kind of organizes features in terms of priorities based on that. And we can get much more fine-grained data from our Slack, from our kind of conversations. But a lot of that is just intuition and just understanding what should be done, and kind of figuring out, especially small things, prioritization requires that, right? But when you kind of make a big decision about some large features, that is, I think, mostly on a belief that this is what's needed.
Right. And what has changed since you left corporate and now manage your own company? Are you happier in that environment, or is it like more challenging? Like, what changes have you seen since your AWS days to now owning your own company 5 years ago?
I think it's certainly challenging to build a company. For us, certainly the big part of startup experience didn't exist because we started the company when we actually had already product market fit. And the most challenging part of startup is finding that magical product market fit. We already had proven solution, which I didn't mention that, but co-founder of Temporal, Samar, built kind of similar solution at Microsoft. So we already kind of built it 3 times, like at Amazon, right, at Microsoft, and then at Uber. And all 3 times, this solution got a lot of adoption bottoms up on different teams. And then the last one actually got also open source adoption. That's why we got our funding. And obviously first customers were like companies like HashiCorp, Box, Airbnb, and having companies like that certainly helped. But certainly building a company and learning from scratch to be a manager, learning like what it means to kind of organize the company, hire people. Hiring probably was the hardest one initially. It was an interesting experience. It's nice that we have all this ecosystem around, like a VC ecosystem, right? Like our VCs helped us a lot, especially initially when we had no clue what to do. And but right now, as I said, it was not like because it was hard. It's just because something which I wasn't enjoying doing. I ended up going back to purely technical role. So right now, I'm not driving the company in the sense of day to day. I certainly part of the board, right? I sit on all leadership meetings, but at the same time, I don't have any reports, so I'm kind of a little bit on the sidelines there.
And did you not like that part because performances were underwhelming? How do you make sure to actually recruit like super engineers that 10x produce what their peers would normally produce or what you would produce?
It's a hard one. A lot of that is just luck, finding those people and then convincing them to join. I think having an open source project and which is successful and has a lot of excited users and customers certainly helps, right? So it's one thing to go and say, okay, I have this startup, but it does this thing which some business vertical versus we are building platform for every developer. So this is the way we kind of usually convince people. And then obviously some people came who we had personal connections over the years, and but some of our best developers, just we found them through normal recruiting pipeline, but they usually started to talk to us because we had this project they liked.
And you mentioned luck. Are LLMs luck mitigators because they can predict the future? Do you believe in a future in which we can pretty much predict everything at the right time?
No, I don't think so, because my understanding of LLMs, at least the way they are right now, they actually just very, very, very good way to organize information, right? They're not producing new information. They're kind of reshuffling information we produced. So I don't think they can predict the future. They are a very good way to kind of generate things based on our past. Like humans, I think maybe somebody will come up with very new smart algorithm, but I think right now LLMs are not going to predict future. We can certainly do brute force research, and obviously there are very good examples of genetic algorithms and LLM-based algorithms for like protein folding and so on. But I think right now, no, I don't think they can predict any future.
Hmm. Do you think they create new pieces of information, aren't they? Because they can think about new things and produce things that have not been put up out there with the new prompt. They can merge two ideas together and forge a new idea that hasn't been created together. And ultimately, I don't think that's different than us humans and our human brains. Don't you agree?
No, I don't think so. I think they absolutely can help us to put things together, because I don't think any human can keep the whole all information in their brains the way they do. So that is certainly, I think it's a very cool tool, and I don't think we still understand the limitations of that and power of those tools. But I think still it's still a tool. I don't think it's something which will by itself create a lot of value without humans.
Because I think ultimately all the information is already there, arguably. And if you take Einstein and his theory of relativity, just added up a couple of concepts together and pieced a couple of discoveries together, right? And forged this whole new theory that arguably philosophically already exists.
No, I don't. This is the problem that you should be able to think from first principles to come up with something like that, and kind of make some leap. And LLMs, it's exactly the limitation, right? They don't think from first principles, right? They don't see the forest behind the trees yet, right? At least this is, I think, the main problem is that's why they hallucinate, right? Like, because they don't have mental picture of the world, right? They don't have like the model of the world, and they cannot compare that model to whatever is produced. It's exactly where they fail, because they just compose information without having this kind of overall framework of the world. And this is, I think, their main limitation.
Because they always recreate from scratch, is your point, but can't that be in their core algorithm? Can we teach them first principles from scratch? Isn't that just another technical problem?
Oh, it is a technical problem. It's just that the current LLMs, they are algorithms that cannot do that. We need different algorithms.
Okay, let's do round two and go deeper on that one because I know you're on time here. Where can people find out more about you, Max?
I'll just go to temporal.io. And if you want to talk to me, go to temporal.io/Slack. And we have 15 or 17,000 right now people now Slack, and I'm always there. They can just find me, DM me, and also don't temporally. I'm pretty sure you will save a lot of time and effort building new applications from AI applications, but any other applications if you just learn this technology.
That was Max and Charles for another